So I already made Law's Devil Fruit here, but I decided I wanted to revamp it and make it better. As some of y'all may know, I'm opening up an Etsy shop selling a bunch of devil fruits, and I've been testing out various silk filaments and seeing how they come out. Law's fruit, the open nome, came out so good with the red and green silk filament that in this video I wanted to show you guys how I revamped this fruit and the pros and cons of making it this way. Without further ado, let's get into it. So just like in my last video, we're in Amazon. First things first, I'm gonna show y'all where did I get the filaments and what filaments did I use to make this fruit actually come to life. Then we're gonna go into the orientation. How did I orient and set up the print to make sure it doesn't fail, and how did I make it survive the best it could. Then we're gonna go into the assembly. What did I use to assemble the fruit and make it all come together as one. And finally, we're gonna go over the pros and the cons of actually getting silk filament and printing it out that way rather than using spray paints and doing the post-processing that you would usually do, and seeing the pros and the differences. So as for the silk red filament, I knew coming off using the orange and the blue from CC3D that I was most likely going to go with the CC3D red filament, but at the time they did not have any red in stock, so I was looking at some other different options. But then again, I refreshed it a day later and CC3D red was back there again, so I checked it out and I was obviously going to go with CC3D because they have the best silk filaments. These motherfuckers are not sponsored me, by the way, so but yeah, I was gonna use the red filament from them. It is the cheapest and the best silk filament that I've ever used, hands down. $18.99 for a roll of silk filament is insane. But yeah, I went with the CC3D red and it looked the most accurate for Law's Devil Fruit in my opinion. That you can go with any other silk red filaments, any of these other ones right here, you can choose any one you want, but for me the CC3D silk red was the most accurate and the results speak for themselves. This thing came out beautifully, so that's the filament that I was going to go with, and that's the filament that I'm most likely going to go with for all of my silks that I use. So as for the silk green filament, again, I scoured Amazon and looked through many different silk greens that I could have used, but I've actually stumbled upon this DO3D green filament, which is probably the most beautiful green filament that I've seen. Again, this is no sponsor, this is free promo. But CC3D did have a green, but it was more of like an emerald green. I was looking for more of like a plant green, and DO3D knocked it out the park. This is not that bad of a price as well. $22.99 for the filament is really not bad, which you can get silk filaments for up to $30. So getting a filament that looks this good for this cheap was honestly a steal, and y'all can see it in the results. The stem looks beautiful. This is actually the best that it came out, and the camera doesn't really do it justice, but this is honestly a really good filament. So jumping back into Kira, this is actually how I printed it out. I was going to use tree supports, but I printed this out on my Creality K1 Max, which was way too fast for the tree supports to handle, so I had to switch it up back to normal supports. And the seam line is in the front because the front of this actual model is the back, so I had to put the seam line in the front and then flip it around. Nothing too crazy. Then I switched out the infill. I switched it from cubic subdivision to gyroid. As you can see here, it's different infill that I usually use. I switched it because cubic subdivision was just having too many failures for this fruit. Exactly, I honestly don't know why it was failing so much with cubic subdivision, because cubic subdivision is usually the best infill to use. But I switched it to gyroid, no problems after that, and I switched it to normal supports, no problem. It printed 2 of these fruits perfectly, so I'm not complaining. But all it did was just go up on itself like normal. Always print standing up, like I said, because if you print standing up, your quality will stay the same and you will have some strength to your prints. Always print standing up. But it was nothing too crazy. It took about 6-7 hours on my Creality K1 Max, which is insane because the estimate was 15 hours. So to get a print off the bed in 6 hours when the estimate says 15 hours, that's never been seen before. It's insane how fast 3D printing technology has come. But that's basically it. It just goes straight up and that's all you need. So as for the stem, the front of the model is actually the back, so I had to put the seam line in the front, and I think I used cubic subdivision for this. Cubic subdivision on this worked perfectly, unlike the devil fruit for some reason. Cubic subdivision on the stem worked easily. I oriented it like this because if I would have put it straight, the stem is so wavy that it wouldn't be able to survive. I'll have failures over and over and over again, and I was not trying to deal with that, so I just put it upside down and it worked perfectly. Nothing too crazy. It just printed up on itself, connected easily. But this stem was honestly hell before, and I thought it was going to be really bad to actually make, but flipping it upside down made it just work perfectly. So that's it. So for the assembly, what do I tell y'all every video? Get y'all some Loctite. This literally burns the plastic and mends the plastic together. Again, no promo, no sponsor. Loctite, please sponsor me. But this is the best glue for 3D prints, cosplay props, foam, anything for cosplay and 3D. Just the best glue in general. I can never glaze this glue enough because it's so good. So for all I did for that is put some Loctite on the stem and the heart, connected it together, let it sit for about 5 minutes, blew on it, then let it sit and blow on it. Hey, yo. Pause. But all I did was let it sit, and that was it for it. Literally, that was it for the assembly, and it's not coming off. It's not gonna come off. That's just it. It's not gonna come off. Now finally, we got the pros and cons of having both fruits. One of the fruits coming off the bed with the silk filaments and not having to really do much, just put it together and it already looks beautiful. Then you have one where you have to do a lot more post-processing, like painting, priming, assembling, leaving it to dry, make sure you paint it right. There's honestly only one con about this fruit, is that you can say that you didn't do as much work. If y'all are into not doing a lot of work or wanting to do more work, then you could say that's the only con of this fruit is, oh, I just didn't do as much as this one. For this one, there's so many cons of this. There's the first con of, oh, if I didn't paint it right, it's gonna mess up. I'm gonna have to redo it. I'm gonna have to redo the painting process. There's the con of actually having to go out and get paint and use paint to actually make this fruit come to life. There's cons of actually priming it right. Did I prime it right? Did I prime it wrong? There's so many cons with this fruit. That's why I highly recommend, if you were to make a devil fruit, that you don't paint it unless you want that more creative design of like, oh, I just painted it. I hand painted it myself. I did that. And honestly, I would rather do this and have less work. That's just me. But that's the pros and cons of it. If you are into doing more work or less work, you honestly can go tit for tat. You can do anything you want. It doesn't really matter which way you do it, but I highly recommend that if I were to do it, like y'all seen in this video, which I did both ways, and this is coming from unbiased, me doing it both ways, 100% I would do it this way every single time. The silk just looks beautiful, unless you want that gloss color as well, but the silk just looks beautiful. It's less work, there's less things you have to go through, so that's the pros and cons of both. There's really no con of this, and that's it. That's gonna do it for this video. Another short and sweet video on how I revamped and remade Law's famous Open No Me devil fruit. It's my favorite devil fruit for my favorite character, so I don't mind covering this fruit multiple times in multiple different videos. But I thank y'all so much for watching this video. I have an Etsy shop coming soon, so if you're ever like, I want to support this creator, or you're ever like, I just want to have a devil fruit because it looks cool and I want to buy one, I will have an Etsy shop in the description of this video and all my other videos. When it opens up, I will edit it. Thank y'all so much for watching this video, and thank y'all so much for the continuous support and helping me stay motivated and keep grinding and keep cranking these videos out for y'all. Without y'all, none of this would have been possible, so I thank y'all so much to keep supporting me. And as always, I hope y'all have a great rest of your day, your night, whenever y'all motherfuckers is watching this video. And as always, DMB on top. Peace.